Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, September 6, 2016 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let me remind you to make sure your microphone is lighted when you're speaking and speak into the microphone for the record. And we'll call roll. Commissioner Anderson?
Present.
Commissioner Berenson?
Present.
Commissioner Bowie?
Present.
Commissioner Crane?
Present.
Commissioner Fizer?
Present.
Commissioner Meiske?
Present.
Commissioner Sarsfield? Mayor Turnbow?
Present.
And Commissioner Faulkner is present. We do have a quorum. And we have no personal appearances scheduled this evening. One item on the consent agenda, which is acceptance of minutes from our August 16th, 2016 meeting. And I would entertain a motion either to accept minutes of our August 16th meeting or to accept consent agenda unless commissioners wish to discuss that further.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the consent agendas as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Meiske to accept, which was it, consent agenda? Sorry, consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 8, and we have 8 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Thank you. Nothing this evening under old business, so we will move straight into new business. Our case this evening, 16017, the 2017 through 2021 capital improvement program. This case will require a public hearing, and Mr. Carteret, you or Mr. Fearborn want to start the case off? And Mr. Zur, am I fine with not opening the public hearing until the conclusion of Mr. Fearborn's presentation? Yeah? Okay. Let's do that. Okay. No, that's fine. So I will open the public hearing on case 16017. Anyone wishing to comment or question through the course of Mr. Fearborn's presentation, I suppose, should come to the podium, state name and address for the record, and pose your comment or question. Does that sound fair? I really hate to have you interrupted, but I'm sure the commission will, so all is fair. Thank you. Mr. Fearborn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, and members of the commission, I present the 2017 through 2021 capital improvement program for the city of Raymore for your consideration this evening, and thank you for putting me on the agenda this evening. As I've done the past 2 years, because as you are aware, the out years for the capital improvement program are somewhat fluid, and certainly there's a great deal to talk about for the 2017 year of the CIP, which is necessarily the capital program for the city as a whole. I would like to limit my discussion of projects to next year's projects for 2017. And if you have any questions on the unfunded projects or the out years, there are certainly some good things in there to talk about, in that we are going to be able to continue with over a rock solid $2 million worth of investment already just in the out years that are programmed and funded for basic infrastructure improvements as we can each year. So we're in a very good position as far as the funding of the capital improvement program is concerned. to discuss the 2017, yes, sir.
Sorry, quick question. So we have nothing on our screens, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be working off the printed
No,
copies.
that's
Does everybody have
fine.
a printed copy?
I think we're fine. I
Okay,
just didn't want to miss anything. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Not a problem at all, sir. The proposed 2017 capital budget, revenues for the capital funds for fiscal year 2016 and 2017 are anticipated to remain relatively constant through the next 3 years. No new commercial is being budgeted for next year, which is the sales tax from that is a primary source of funding for several of the capital funds. In an attempt to be as conservative as possible, we have not budgeted for any new business that hasn't begun already, which means those businesses that are projected to be in the new Cadence project where the Dean property was, we are not budgeting any revenue for those for purposes of the capital funds, so a very conservative revenue source. However, even with that conservatism, we are able to budget with known funds for $9,223,000 worth of projects. That is a new capital funding record. Of that, $5,948,000 is GO bond funded projects that have already been approved by the voters, and $3,275,000 is the other capital fund sources that are being used. As we have done for the past 5 years, funding into the Park Sales Tax Fund of the capital program and the Stormwater Sales Tax Fund, 40% of the revenue that is generated in that sales tax, 40% goes to the Stormwater Sales Tax Fund for projects within it, 40% by a vote of the public goes to the Park Sales Tax Fund for projects in the Park Sales Tax funding area. 20% is up to the council's discretion on how they're going to distribute that. Staff has recommended again this year that that 20% be split down the middle for a 50-50 funding source in both the Park Sales Tax and the Stormwater Sales Tax funds. Those amounts, eventually, we're probably going to have to see the discretionary 10% that we're splitting into the Park Sales Tax Fund. We are seeing on the horizon some stormwater needs, probably 2 to 3 years out, but for next year, we're again recommending the 50-50 split. With that being said on funding sources, I'm just going to jump into the categoricals as far as the capital projects themselves. Within buildings and grounds, there are several projects called for next year. A lot of upgrades from some things from some projects that we did 10 years ago. A lot of upgrades because of the new buildings. And then some need that has come out of our safety committee as far as the projects that are going to be in buildings and grounds. City Hall phone system. The City Hall phone system is aged. As I was telling the council on the night I presented to this, the primary goal for this is so that I can actually dial numbers from my office phone that have a 3 in them, because the 3 on my phone hasn't worked for about 3 months now, as a matter of fact. Security cameras at Parks and Public Works identified by our safety committee. This will call for the installation of 20 security cameras at Rec Park and Memorial Park and Moon Valley Park and the Public Works facility. Very necessary. We've seen an increase in the vandalism at the parks and some needs on the part of PD to be able to monitor those areas. This is actually phase 1. With the bidding that will go on for this system, the same system will be established and paid for through GO bond funding and is called for at the municipal center to be built behind here, at the amphitheater in Hawk Ridge Park, and at any other facilities here at City Hall, any other facilities that might be projected in the future for the property that the city now owns on the west side, and TB Hanna Station Park as well. But those would be, again, the ones that are programmed now out of bond issue, same system, seamless, monitorable down in PD, and we'll use whatever the bid came from on this to recommend to the council the upgrades at the other facilities. Public Works facility flooring replacement. This involves replacing all the carpet with not carpet at the Public Works facility. Why we ever programmed carpet into a place where muddy work boots are being used on a daily basis, I'll never know. But Mr. Krass assures me that this price will buy him tile. Public Works facility LED lighting. We have engaged, and you'll notice even here in council chambers, we have slowly changed out all of the lighting here at City Hall with new LED lighting. That includes both floors, out in the Sally Port, all locations. We actually did that after a study by our building tech, Daryl Quaddy. We've been saving literally thousands of dollars a month on that. Mr. Krass has asked that that program be extended. We anticipate a reduction in electrical usage there of about 15%. Municipal complex microsurfacing. The project involves microsurfacing the City Hall parking lot, Municipal Circle, Broadmoor, and Skyline Drive. You all are here on a regular basis. You know that some of those cracks, you can't see the bottom of at this point, so we're going to be doing some work here. It also calls for the council, at the instigation of our mayor, are proposing to us that in order to make Municipal Circle more of a municipal circle, that the drive Municipal Circle be turned to one way. So as a part of this project and the striping that's going to be associated with it, and in addition to being able to get a considerable amount of additional parking once the municipal center comes online, which was one of the concerns of the council, we're going to turn this into more of an old-fashioned municipal center, have it be one way, going counterclockwise with parallel parking because it's wide enough with what we have, or diagonal parking going in because it's wide enough with the current parallel parking areas that we can have a nice wide lane one way and still allow for cars to be able to pull in that way. The City Hall front entry repair, you may have noticed coming into City Hall over the course of the past several years that it's beginning to deteriorate a little. You can see rust at the bottom of most places. We continue to have chronic leaks down in PD in this building that are coming from that area. This is actually going to call for having to tear out the entire front patio of City Hall, tear out most of the flashing that's there. There have been a considerable amount of staff discussions because for the time that that's going to take, obviously there's going to be a considerable inconvenience getting people in and out of this building, a lot of signage. There's going to have to be some give and take, as we say, with this particular project, but it needs to be done. Not a good idea to have it raining down in our evidence area onto what's setting down in there at any given time. Public Works interior painting and repairs, again, we'll do this before we do the carpet or the new tile, top to bottom, top to bottom. The Municipal Circle parking improvements, again, what we had just discussed in conjunction with the Municipal Circle microsurfacing project. Community development project, we have a single community development project on for this year. It is the TB Hanna Station parking improvements. The Planning and Zoning Commission may not be aware, but last year we purchased from the church the Hayes house that sat there. You may have noticed it's fenced around. We're going to be bringing that house down in the next several weeks to increase the area there. We are now in the process, the council is now in the process of purchasing the last quadrant, the southwestern quadrant where the concrete, it's being used as a house, unbelievably, but it was the original post office on the square for the city of Raymore. We have pictures of it. If you look at the front of that, you can still see the entrance exit doors for the post office. They've just got one boarded up, has been for years. We're going to take advantage of the historical complex of that and the fact that it provides water. The intention is to buy the last quadrant, which will be able to use the land for all the bond projects that we have slated for the square. and then turn that particular facility into bathrooms, but remodel it on the exterior, exactly like what the post office looked like, for a little bit of historical context to go with the depot that went through there. That is the only community development project. The reason that's under community development is because the entire development of TB Hanna Station Park was a component of the original town plan that came before the P&Z, 2008. So we're pressing through with all of those plans that they had for that. Our parks projects, a considerable amount of these are part of the $5,948,000 of the $5,948,000 for GO bonds. $4,308,000 of it next year will be parks projects. So that's why this particular list, and you can see the ones that are being funded through the GO bonds. Memorial Park improvements, the final phase of this project, it's a facelift to Memorial Park. It is part of the 2007, it's all the components of the 2007 strategic plan. It will include reconstruction of the existing trail that winds through there, the addition of a loop trail, lighting of the sand volleyball courts there, and lighting of the trail system that's within there. Memorial Park ADA access to the ball fields. These are the ball fields that sit right between the two shelters. And when you come out of the main shelter for the park to try to get to the back of those right now, it's just grass. We need to be providing ADA access in accordance with code to get to those fields. The Ward Park Shelter House, this project involves the construction of a smallish 10 by 10 shelter house over the concrete pad that's currently in the park. The Boy Scout project involved pouring that 10 by 10 pad, and it's in place, and one picnic table is currently on the side. It'd be nice to give them a little bit of shade out there. $6,500 project. Hawk Ridge Park parking and ADA playground. This is a great GO bond project that we're going to be able to give to our citizens and citizens of surrounding areas. This is going to call for the only fully accessible ADA playground in the South Kansas City region and the South Overland Park region. So on either side of the state line, this will be one of the only fully accessible ADA parks. It also calls for parking and expansion of the parking that is there. Hawk Ridge Park Amphitheater, parking and restrooms. I'm sure you've all heard about the amphitheater that will be on the east side of the lake that's been approved by the voters. The amphitheater will be for upper small, I am told upper small to medium size events. It's got a natural hill there for amphitheater style seating on the grass. This particular project calls for the construction of the amphitheater, additional parking in Hawk Ridge Park on the south side of the lake, and then the restrooms that will be right next to that parking. In this year, we already have approved restrooms and expanded parking to go with the other expanded parking with the ADA playground on the north side of the lake. So between the additional parking and the trail that's already approved around the lake, it's going to be a very, very nice amenity that we're going to be able to bring to our citizens. But with all of that going in, there is going to be need for additional signage, both within the park itself on how to get to different places and what's there, as well as where is the park. The signage is proposed to possibly be even as close as up here on 58, so that as people are trying to get to the amphitheater for events, they know where they're going, because it is down in there a little bit. Recreation Park Activity Center, of course, you all know about the Activity Center. This calls for what is called a MAC gym, multi-purpose floor. You can do a lot on it. You can play basketball in the morning, volleyball in the afternoon, and then have a car show on it in the evening, is what I've heard as far as how sturdy this flooring is. It calls for, right now, one basketball court, staff support, a very nice lobby area, and it is an expandable building. If you can picture where the pond is in Rec Park, the front doors will be facing towards that pond. The expandable area would be directly to the west with a sacrificial wall built right now. But if it is as used as we think it is going to be from already booked items, we're going to be needing to expand that building in the very near future, I'm sure. Park maintenance facility, fencing, and building apparatus right now, what is called for, or building apron, calls for a concrete pad around the building at the park maintenance facility in 3 years, and right now calls for fencing around that facility. We need to clean up that area. It's going to be right behind, when the park house comes down, this building will be highly visible from the new activity center, so we want to make sure that we get it fenced. The insurance company is asking that we get it fenced because of the materials that are stored outside, and the building apron will be a very, very nice amenity to clean that area up. The Memorial Park parking lot extension, the existing parking lot on the west side of Memorial Park can right now park about 15 vehicles or 3 of my truck. And so they need to, with the new amenities that are going in there and the trail, they're going to be extending that parking lot by another 10 to 15 spaces to the south down into the park towards the trail system that's already there. The Memorial or the TB Hanna Station Park improvements, again, this is with GEO bond funds. The project involves, we're calling it a master plan, but it's not. It is more of a design scheme for what can and cannot fit into that park, and it is also, there is a need when we fix up the new building. That building is going to serve as the water pump house for the new ice rink and water splash park that is slated to go in there. There will be a railroad-themed water splash park and a railroad-themed playground equipment apparatus put in there, as well as the possibility, the council seemed to look favorably on, we have been offered an $18.99 Southern Star executive coach that was used actually for the CEO of the railroad at that time that ran just west of here. And we have been touring some of those that have been rehabbed from historical purposes. And you can actually fit 30 to 40 people into those for conferences. And downtown, right next to the convention center, they actually have one that's been rehabbed by Casey Southern, and it's got a beautiful park-like setting around it. Would really be a unique feature to that railroad-themed park. Council has asked that it be added at least. It hasn't been approved final, but it's been added to the amenities for that park. And so one of the things as far as the design scheme for it is, where do we fit all of these things in and still have a viable farmer's market? Because there's a lot going in there right now. So this calls for a design scheme to be done ahead of all of those improvements that are GEO bond funded and possibly funded by the council. Sanitary sewer projects for next year, of course, once again, the sanitary sewer inflow and infiltration. This has been an incredibly boring project that is incredibly successful. We have gone from yearly, after medium-sized rains, having 4 to 6 basements flood on us to having 0 for the past 3 years, which is a phenomenal testament to how well this particular program is working. Silvertop sewer replacement. This is another sewer line that runs along the west side of Silver Lake. There are, Mike, I believe there are 4 different sewer lines. Yeah, 4 different sewer lines that run along that side of the lake. We have been in the process for several years now of replacing defects as they fail. This again is an area of about 300 feet of failed clay. It's the old clay pipe, and we have to go in and get it replaced before we do end up with some sort of backup that we don't want over there. Our annual curb replacement. Last year, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city, and subsequently the City Council, approved my recommendation that our curb replacement program recognized the fact that curb is not only a street and transportation issue, but also a stormwater conveyance issue. And so an additional $100,000 in addition to what we pay for out of the transportation fund for curb replacement is now coming out of the stormwater fund and being recommended by city staff. This year, the council approved city staff's recommendation as far as curb replacement is concerned to go back to, we see a lot of deterioration of the rollback curb. Anecdotally, as you drive the city and look at areas where you should be seeing deterioration but aren't, instead of rollback curb, there is high-back curb, even on residential streets. Drive down Johnson, and you get about halfway down with no deterioration in the curb at high back. It suddenly transitions to rollback, and every 50 feet or so, you're beginning to see deterioration. In an effort to not always have to spend $500,000 a year on curb replacement, the council did approve the high back curb. The detention pond rehab beautification partnership. This is an effort for the city to pilot a program to adopt the abandoned detention ponds. An example would be right out here on Sunset Drive, where the detention pond is all grown up. The look of an example of what we're trying to cure, which is no longer there as of about a week and a half ago, would be the detention pond that was on the commercial property just west of Foxwood Springs, where the trees were growing out of it. It was like a popular tree farm sitting in there. So the city's going to adopt one of those ponds, apply best management practices to it, and then call in developers and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing with these. The Sunset Pond fits very, very well into, and Mr. Grass and I are still debating this, but I feel that the Sunset Pond fits very well into it because obviously we're going to be doing a model building right next to it. And it would be really nice to be able to show best management practices for that pond, that building, and another project that I'm going to talk about here in a second. The City Hall detention pond, which is immediately behind us, which staff humorously calls Lake Furborn, is never going to fill with water, even though it was supposed to fill with water. So this particular project calls for finally filling it in, again applying stormwater BMPs to it, and still getting the water quality and the water slowdown that we need out of the area and for municipal circle as a whole, but at the same time getting rid of what has become an eyesore of a detention pond that is not serving the purpose for what it was originally built. Municipal center BMPs are what I was talking about just a moment ago. Behind the municipal center that's going to be built is, we not only have the land on the upper part, but the city also controls and owns all of the land all the way down to Johnson Parkway behind there. There are a number of best management practices that we can apply to that and use it as a kind of a field school for students to come in and see how water retention and how best management practices can be applied for stormwater retention in those types of areas and still have it looking beautiful. The fiscal year 17 stormwater improvements, there are a number of areas in the city, as you can probably see from your ride up there, that have small projects that need to be done to control stormwater and handle some flooding areas. We've just kind of lumped them all together into a $74,000 project. We'll probably bid those all out at the exact same time in order to achieve economies of scale. And then the cul-de-sac program. Again, there are a number of cul-de-sacs in the city that are huge, and they are seas of asphalt. And our new cul-de-sac requirements, when a developer is putting in a cul-de-sac, require that it be a teardrop with an area in the center that's actually for stormwater retention, pervious surface, and sneakily, it gives us a place to store the snow when it actually comes down, so we're not putting it on people's yards in the cul-de-sac and piling it 6 feet high. It gives us an alternative source for that. So this, again, calls for adopting a number of the cul-de-sacs that are already in place that have huge areas of asphalt and installing some of those center island locations in those that are already existing. The annual curb replacement program, again, out of the transportation fund, $400,000 to go with the $100,000 that was called for in the stormwater fund. The annual street preservation program, $800,000 worth of work to be done next year on the streets. We have been lucky enough, and the council has been foresighted enough. For those of you who've have some seniority, you know that that's been doubled for the last 3 to 4 years and allows us to be spending millions on our streets and basic infrastructure each year. Annual sidewalk program begins to wind down. This year calls for $117,000 as it has in other years. Don't know if staff's recommendation will be in future years to possibly extend that, but with a different focus. Staff is going to be examining that through this year. Next year is the last year for funding on the sidewalk program. Maintenance of thoroughfare routes, again, last year, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard me talk about the fact that in years past, and the council did approve, in years past, we have used the excise tax revenue that we have garnered only for new streets. The ballot language for the excise tax when it was passed 2002, 2001, called for both new streets and maintenance to major thoroughfare routes that are used to service those businesses and homes that we garner the excise tax from. We had never used it for maintenance. It had always been used for new streets. We took a look at that. We had legal take a look at that. We are perfectly within our commitment to the voters to use this on maintenance, and quite frankly, we were beginning to see languishing funds in that account. So in order to honor what the voters had approved, last year we presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, subsequently to the council for their approval, that money be spent for maintenance of major thoroughfare routes, just as the language of the ballot had indicated. So again, this year we're calling for maintenance to be done on Dean Avenue and Lucy Webb with those funds in the amount of $155,000. The audible pedestrian signal has been extremely successful and met with a great deal of applause from a considerable amount of our citizenry. This is the one that is currently located at Johnson and 58 Highway. This project calls for putting audible pedestrian signals at our other major intersections that have street lights at them, or stoplights at them. If you've never heard it, it's extremely effective. In fact, about 3 months ago, I was walking my grandsons. As many of you know, I walk my grandsons all over the city, and we went through there, and it was their first time going through on the audible signal, and it's enough if you're standing there, you definitely hear it. If you have the stereo blasting in your car, you still hear it. So they actually didn't even want to walk. They thought they were in trouble and somebody was yelling at them. It's that loud. But this does call for putting them in. It helps with our Walk-Friendly City initiative that Mr. Carteret is working so hard on, and community for all ages. Municipal center sidewalks and lighting. This calls for filling in the gaps here on Municipal Circle. Once the Municipal Center is in, and if anything were to happen with the property on the west side here, we want to make sure that Municipal Circle is a model for being able to walk in. The street, the sidewalks, and of course that does call for an upgrade to the lighting. Mr. Crass has been prowling about the area some evenings, and the lighting that exists here doesn't rise to the standard for normal evening lighting for pedestrian walkways. So we're going to be upgrading that as well. Street light installation. As many of you may know, the city purchased our street lights this year. We now own them from KCP&L, and we're going to see a considerable hundreds of thousands of dollars in expense savings from doing that we're hoping to be able to divert to doing some other great things here in Raymore and for our folks. However, owning the street light systems, KCP&L wrote us about 24 hours after the purchase was complete to let us know that, oh, hey, by the way, there were a couple of street light areas that we didn't get to before we sold it to you, big surprise. And so we're going to have to go back and actually install some street lights in those areas. That's what this project calls for. Fox Ridge Drive extension. This project calls for Fox Ridge Drive where it terminates on the in the Wood Creek subdivision to now be extended to the west to meet up with Dean Avenue. Eventually, and we've already heard from the developer, great thanks from the developers for the commercial property on the west side of that, because they will then be taking Fox Ridge Drive and taking it down through that commercial development, curving it south, crossing North Cass Parkway, and then going into the south part of the commercial development that's slated for down there at the new interchange. But this is the first step towards initiating that entire project. So we see it as both a economic development aid, as well as there are a couple, 2 or 3 lots where it currently terminates, where I'm sure the builders will be very, very pleased that we're taking the initiative to go ahead and put the road in to spur that building as well. The Kentucky Road relocation, many of you may have heard about this one. Just north of the Ryans property, past the Dean Barnes and past the duplex, but before you get to the last house, before you get to Herald Estates, Kentucky Road will actually curl into the east and then match up with what is now the private drive that runs just between the Ryans and the Firestone. So all of that will be hooked up. We see this as a major economic development incentive for that area. We see the northeast corner where the Ryans is currently, or was currently at, where the Chinese restaurant is going to go in, as a major economic development gateway for the city. And not just the Ryans property itself, but the entire property to the north of there, where Block and Company is a portion of it, as you all have probably seen. They're doing a tremendous amount of site work on there in anticipation of future economic development. This will also spur behind there to the north of there until you get to the property line for Herald Estates. All of that area, we think that this will be a tremendous help to future development in that area. Johnson Drive, Dean to Derby, much like Fox Ridge Drive, except for there is an entire subdivision of about how many homes, Jim? Yeah, once this goes in. So we're hoping that this spurs some immediate home building there in that particular area once Johnson Drive goes through. It's also, we're really hoping for a great deal of relief for our citizens who are in Fox Haven, especially in the morning drive. This will give them a stoplight, another stoplight to get to the west, as they can come out of the subdivision, get to Dean, and then come up Dean to that stoplight. So kind of a safety issue as well. Water, Gore Road water main and meter station, I have to congratulate Mr. Crass. He knows what's coming. This is now our oldest capital project since we have now acquired a firing range for the city. That one had it beat by about 6 months. This one, the reason it's back on for $120,000, this is $120,000 in addition to the funding that's already been approved. KCMO has changed the rules within their specifications for what's required of this particular meter station. So we've had to add to the project. We are under contract to fulfill this. There was a contract for the additional $1 million or 1 million gallons worth of water that we acquired from them 3 years ago. Census meter reading system. We have been engaged in a project for the past 8 years to slowly change out all of our manual read water meters with radio read meters that one person can just walk past and pick up the read on the meter. Unfortunately, as we draw to the close of that particular project, the AMCO meters that we have been using have been discontinued. So we are going to go with the tried and true and much longer existing census meters. The goal of this particular meter, which is pretty cool as far as water meters go, is to get to a system where we're pinging off towers, and all we have to do is push one button in the utility billing department, and all the reads get done at once. And they're very accurate. People can go in and see their water usage on a daily basis if they want with the new meters. So this is a kickoff program of $150,000 to go to those. It is coupled with the $84,000 that is in the normal budget for the enterprise fund to replace those meters. So the two amounts would be combined, so we get a good jump start on the meter replacements. Some brief highlights relative to this capital budget. The budget for the second year calls for $500,000 in curb replacement, $800,000 for street preservation, and $117,000 for sidewalks. This budget calls for completing $5,948,000 in GO bond projects, keeping the city's promise to deliver on the public's trust when they voted for that, overwhelmingly voted for that. This budget calls for spending $138,000 to make improvements here on Municipal Circle in response to the community conversation comments about creating a walkable municipal center and a walkable city. This budget calls for spending $384,000 in city beautification projects that involve stormwater best management practices, including the street preservation, curb replacement, and sidewalk work that this budget calls for again this year. Along with the GO bond funded streets, this budget calls for over $3,300,000 in pure street, sidewalk, and curb maintenance and development. So we're doing neat projects to enhance the city. We're doing beautification projects to enhance the city, but we're not forgetting about the meat and potatoes with this particular capital budget. That concludes staff report, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Public hearing is still open. I think I'll start with a really, really nitpicky question. I apologize. It's just kind of to warm up. The text on page 94 of the report looked like the computer might have helped out a little bit. There were a few things under the description. Second sentence didn't really seem to make a lot of sense, and justification sort of died there. Is that just on our copy, or is that in the master?
It looks like it dropped off the second sentence as it moves forward, sir. We'll get that changed.
Yeah, okay. And
Those are the
that's-
3 locations for the pilot project, though: North Oxford, Meadowlark,
Ah,
and Rachel Circle.
okay, that's cul-de-sac
Yes.
program. Good, good. Okay. One other comment, doesn't really need any great length, but in the future needs of the city, I am very pleased to see that we've still got 17 Tran 003, 163rd Street from Fox Ridge Drive to Kentucky Road, even though I'd love to see it funded, but I'm glad to see that we have not lost sight of that. That's one thing probably since I have lived in the northeast quadrant for about 23 years and another 15 on the Belton side of Kentucky Road. That one is kind of near and dear to my heart, so I'm glad we still have visibility of it.
And we would certainly, obviously, what we would like to see is the development to go with it so that the development would pay for it.
Oh, that would be ideal.
But we continue to set aside money from the excise tax fund for that particular segment of road as well.
Right. No, I think it's a very good goal to let development drive the infrastructure, but on the other hand, at the very minimum, I think this is good to keep as a backup plan and keep visibility, because as Creekmore has grown, there's certainly a need for other alternative ways to I-49, US 71, and I notice also in unfunded improvements to County Line, improvements to North Madison. So it seemed like we had a fairly long vision, and I'm in appreciation of that.
If I might add to that, sir.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Krass and I have actually met with the city manager for Kansas City. Some of you may be interested in and have heard there's a bridge out on 150th.
Yeah.
And has been for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That bridge is under the control of the city of Kansas City. They are actually the ones who shut it down. By his own admission, Mr. Schulte recognizes that it's way out there and really has nothing to do with Kansas City. If Mr. Schulte's dream is to begin to shrink Kansas City back as far as their streets are concerned.
Wow.
They have a great deal of responsibility. One of my dreams, and I think it's shared by a number of the council members, is we have got to get out of owning half streets. If the street surrounds us, we should take it so we don't end up with problems like this. The city of Kansas City has indicated a great deal of willingness to partner, if we would be willing, on 155th Street improvements, pay for the bridge at the same time, and they believe that they have 5th District support for it. And then do that sooner than later if we will then take over the street and go ahead and annex it back into the city of Raymore.
Wow.
Those discussions are ongoing.
That's good to know. Other commissioners have questions, comments for Mr. Fearborn or other city staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Meiske?
in the last year, or maybe it's been longer than that, I remember we had a couple of presentations. One was just recently about the signage and directional signage as far as, the monuments and things of Raymore. I didn't see that in the budget. Is that something that we're looking at? Because I know some of that signage could be expensive, the directional, you know what I mean, about showing where the parks and stuff are.
One of the things that Raymore is missing is not down to that level, but that has been discussed extensively, is some sort of recognition signage that you are in Raymore. That's a little bit tough when both sides of 158 is your most used road, and one side extends much farther to the west than the other side does. But we're trying to lick that problem. The one thing that people used to recognize that they would say, I'm in Raymore, is when they went past the Dean Farm.
Yeah.
So that corner, the developer, as part of the incentive package, the developer has agreed to pay for an identifier sign that you're in the city of Raymore. We, this week, are putting out a call for artists It has to identify the city of Raymore as an element, but we also want it to be something people will remember, an art feature, if you will. Second item that's been proposed is, and it's one of the things that the council is very well aware of, if we are going to be a walkable city, we've got to eliminate the stigma that's 58. As far as I can't get from north to south because there's this big 5-lane highway and it's big and it's scary. So we're going to need more pedestrian ways to get across 58. As a component of that, last Monday night, the council was presented with, if you've been on Main Street in Grandview, just a concept design, may or may not be in this year's budget, but the council has it in front of them for consideration in the future, and that is the same sort of arch identifier, wrought iron with nice lighted columns on it that you see there. You see some off of 435 on the Kansas side, on some of the larger streets over there as well. So some of the larger elements of identification are being identified. The community conversations identified wayfinding signage as well, a considerable amount of input on that. And that has made its way into an action step of the strategic plan. Year not yet identified.
Okay. My second issue is bicycle trails or bicycle, I guess, pathways on roadways.
Nothing identified in the current CIP.
Okay.
We have, as an example, on the 155th Street proposal, one of the things that we had asked Kansas City to look at, but it became cost prohibitive because of the right-of-way issues, was to include bicycle lanes on that. The program for 163rd Street, when it gets built, is to include bicycle lanes. The current city code calls for, of course, sidewalk one side, trail on the other side of any developed new road. Getting to the older roads is a little bit more problematic. And one of the things that we do hear from folks who are out there riding competitively, professionally, whatever you want to, certainly more than I do, is that they prefer not to have the bike lanes. That's kind of considered, it's an area of refuse that might create a false sense of security for them. So you hear that argument as well quite often. But we're going to continue to push for them wherever we can when we see new road go in.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, I have some, I guess, comments, and it's mainly from just, or questions mainly for clarification. On page 53, as far as the amphitheater, looking at the pictures there, it seems a little bit small. Is there a discussion, maybe long-term, as a phased plan to enlarge it if need be?
The amphitheater itself?
Yeah.
Strictly a concept picture, sir. The ones that Mr. Crass and I have actually, that Mr. Crass priced out is considerably larger and actually has 2 storage areas on the side that make it look even bigger than it is. It was kind of interesting, though, when you may be aware that the council took an economic development tour in late June. When we were on that tour, we went to downtown Gladstone. And theirs actually looks a little bit like this one. Looks out over a synthetic ice rink, just like what we have proposed. But yes, sir, this is strictly concept picture only. We anticipate much larger.
I appreciate it. Page 55, I guess along the line of Commissioner Maisky, is in terms of the signage. I really like the way the sign looks. Or are we going to have consistent signage with our parks, similar to this proposed?
We would like to see consistent signage not only in the parks, but consistent signage throughout the city.
City? Okay. Right. All right. I think on page 76, just a comment there regarding the sanitary sewer and the amount of flooding. You know, once upon a time I worked in the city of Prairie Village, and that is very, very common in terms of homes flooding based upon, you know, the lack of sanitary sewer work. So I want to commend the city for doing the work this far. Page 84, as far as I guess a question. So what is the average curb life? And the reason I'm asking that is right now, Creekmore, at least where I am, I'm going on 11 years now, which I can't believe now. And so some of the curbs are deteriorating. So how is that determined in terms of which areas of the city, you know, gets curb replacement?
Mr. Grass?
Oh, Mr. Krass, we've let you off too easy so far this evening.
This was not planned, by the way, so.
The reason I'm calling on Mr. Krass to come forward is because it's a problem we recognize. Otherwise, we would not have been proposing this. And it is a problem that it is a solution we are proposing that I want him to be able to brag on both himself and his department, all the way down to the guys who are pouring what they need to pour.
Thank you. Good evening. With regards to the service life, we don't base the curb replacement on service life. We base the curb replacement on severity of the defect, and so we use a 3-point scale. And so 1 is just cracked, 2 is it may have some pieces missing, and then 3, it has a whole lot missing, and the road is starting to fail. So for the most part, we focus on the severity 2 and 3s. Those are a little bit more than what can be patched through our public works operations. But what Mr. Fearborn was referring to is about a year ago, our operations folks came and said there are a lot of areas in front of driveways that we can't keep up with. So what we've done is added those to the curb program, and that seems to be what folks are really concerned about is the tire grabbers as they're trying to pull into their driveways, not so much concerned about what's in front of the house. So that's the approach we use. We just completed another survey of the city, and we'll be compiling that data, re-looking at the program, reprogramming our curb replacements, and presenting that to the council as part of our recommendation for next year's program.
Thank you.
And one of the nice parts about the driveway program is it came from the guys who are out in the field and continues to be able to be modified because, and I'm sure you've all seen this, there are times when it'll crack and you'll have a crack for 4 years, and then all of a sudden there are times when you've got nothing, and 2 weeks later it feels like the entire curb of your driveway has sloughed off. Again, to that, we see a lot of, those driveway approaches are rollback curb. And as bad as rollback curb seems to be, it's certainly going to be worse when you're driving your car over it. So this program allows for the flexibility. Mike has built into the funding mechanism of it, the flexibility for our guys who are out on the street, boots on the ground, to be able to come back and say, we were on Elm and we noticed this particular house isn't included in the program this year, but it needs it. It is overnight risen to a level 2. So the flexibility of the program is something we're really proud of, and we're really proud of the fact that it got brought to us from the guys who are out in the field and are seeing it every day.
All right, 2 more questions here on the 117, the Kentucky Road relocation. So is the existing intersection, will that stay there or close?
It'll stay there in some manner.
Okay.
Our intention is to do a very comprehensive transportation study that includes 58 for a considerable number of feet both ways off of Dean, possibly even partnering with Belton on it, down Dean Avenue, past to the south of the Walmart.
Okay.
And then this area, the existing Kentucky and the relocated Kentucky, and most likely east then on 58 to approximately Foxwood Springs property line. So very, very comprehensive. The results of that study, and we want to hold off on that study until we at least get the Cadence property developed and see how that's impacting and what would be the recommendations from the study after that is in.
Okay. And lastly is that, I guess overall, in terms of the CIP, do we use the CDA some type of program to keep track of the capital improvements similar to what a preventive maintenance program for fleet maintenance? Do we use the same thing for CIP?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. All right, great. All right, I think that's all I have. All right, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Bowie?
Yeah, I just got a few questions. I'm going to stay on that amphitheater theme for a moment, similar to what Commissioner Anderson had talked about. I guess my question regarding the amphitheater has it been identified the need for the amphitheater? Maybe you can expand on that real briefly from some previous findings. What was what kind of gave it a boost to actually happen?
The amphitheater was first proposed, gosh, many years ago in the first Parks Master Plan. It was then included and a very popular feature in the secondary Parks Master Plan that just applied to Hawk Ridge Park. It entered into a number of the community conversations that we had for the overall strategic plan, and it's an amenity that is not offered here in any form whatsoever. And we had a natural park setting that it fit very well to. And it was, I would have to say, maybe even exceeded the additional monies that we put to the municipal center as far as favorable feedback during our presentations on the bond issue.
Mm-hmm. What are the types of projected uses for that space?
Everything from, and interestingly enough, the people who we interviewed who have ones of this size that aren't overdoing it, and I could name a couple of surrounding municipalities that overdid it, but these things get booked for weddings, graduations, not necessarily high school graduations, but smaller graduation ceremonies. Obviously, our Parks Department is already working on spring, summer, and fall programming for Concert in the Park. The facility gets used for different private shows that go on where a corporation or a company is wanting to do both a picnic type presentation, but at the same time, there are going to be a number of strategic presentations, say, made by the president of the company. You see a lot of bookings for that sort of thing. The Chamber of Commerce has indicated that, Sherry over at the Chamber has indicated that the two largest requests she gets are, is there any place for a presentation type show to be made in Raymore, and is there any place for community gathering space? And we feel that we're addressing both those needs.
So it can be it'll be able to be used by outside people that don't live in Raymore, and they'll pay a fee
Absolutely.
to use the facilities and so forth. Then I'm going to jump over to the multipurpose area or gym or something you had mentioned. I think at Rec Park.
Yes.
What's the square footage of that and anticipating being, roughly?
Mr. Krass?
About 19,000?
19,000.
And in terms of potential expansion, another 19,000 or what?
I would say at least another 19,000. When the architect engineering group, SFS, was looking at that, it is at least as large as what exists now. And the reason that they reconfigured it is because with the way the sacrificial wall would come out and the expansion would go in, the staff space / storage space, classroom space, support space for the gym itself, if you put another whole gym onto that expansion, the support space would just seamlessly go down that same area and work for the new area. So you could be moving what is currently a storage space and utility, turning that into an additional classroom for the area, and then putting your utilities and your storage even farther down into the expansion space.
So you've got, and I'm going to assume there would be an expansion in terms of parking. You got 75 spaces here. Of course, if you expand, you need more spaces. Sounds like you got an AE firm already on board,
Yes.
SFS? Okay. And again, could be rented out, could be used. Is there a comparable facility that around the area that you could say, to start off with, this first 19,000 square foot is going to look somewhat similar, or could look somewhat similar to
Yeah, Harris Park
Harris? Okay.
in Lee Summit.
One, just one short down, because Harris Park has a number of basketball courts, but very similar. If you shrunk Harris Park down to one court
Harris
and the admin space.
Okay.
And you may remember Lee Summit did that with that particular, I mean, they started pretty bare bones there at 291 and 50 Highway with that particular facility, and then they have just slowly built onto it. Now all of a sudden there's a huge water park around it.
That's the one that used to have the pool or something at Harris and Lee Summit. Okay, and yeah, it's grown a bit, and I think they've got some, if you go on the inside of Harris Park, I think a family had funded quite a bit of that work and so forth. I don't know if but they feature a family in the front foyer of that particular building, so. Okay, let me make sure I get everything else out the way. I think I got it all. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Other questions, commissioners?
I have a question.
Commissioner Pfizer?
I like the idea of a sign welcoming you to Raymore so you do know when you're there, but will we be able to get rid of that tombstone sign? That is just like a pet peeve of mine every time I drive past it.
I like the
Do
tombstone,
you?
except when it gets overgrown. Sorry.
I kind of hope it gets overgrown.
Yeah, okay.
Will
To each
will
their
that
own.
be leaving us?
Oh, my goodness. If it disappears overnight, we'll know whose yard to look at.
Interestingly enough, even though the bottom of it says Chamber of Commerce,
Oh.
we just found out literally, because there's conversations about that sign in that area, we just found out literally last week that we own that sign.
Oh,
We had to go all the way back to 97, I think,
wow.
to get all of the old paperwork on it. But yes, we all may be hearing about that sign in the very near future.
Uh-oh. Mr. Catarat, you can
Yeah.
handle the sign permit on that one. We don't need it here. Sorry, we always enjoy signs, don't we?
Keep looking down, Mr. Cataret. Don't make eye contact.
Can I ask another question real quick if you finish? I'm sorry. Or did you have anything else?
I think you're good, Commissioner Bowie.
Just a quick question about the street light installation. You said that Raymore had purchased the streets from KCPL. Was there a planned place for additional street lights that is already in the works?
There are a number of locations through the city where we hear people would like streetlights, and there is a way to get onto the website and ask for those.
Okay.
And then engineering does an analysis on whether it will fit, whether there's too much lighting, if it was asked for. we actually, in one of our older locations that it's being requested to have the opposite problem, the entire street signs a petition that they want it. And we've been through this twice now. The whole street signs a petition that they want it, but nobody wants it in their yard.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we're hoping that we can establish a better communications system with more control, where we can explain to people the value of that and getting it in. But these particular locations were just left over that KCP&L didn't address before we took them over. Some of them are more pet peeves of the city, perhaps.
Could
But it's a mix of the two. But once these go in, then it would be to just the developer is responsible for placing the streetlights when they first go in. This particular program makes up for what KCP&L didn't do, and then we would just be on the normal, if you feel like you need an additional streetlight, go onto the website, give us a call. We'll walk you through the application process, and we'll do the normal.
Is there a way to revisit some of the ones that have already, some of the locations that have already been established and were left undone by KCPO? A possibility to relook at them, if that makes any sense?
By all means, yes, if it gets brought to our attention, we will look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll close the public hearing and we'll move to some action on the case. Yeah, I know. We had one, but he got tired and left. Yeah, well, I don't know. Further commissioners, comments, questions for Mr. Fearborn before we close the public hearing? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing on case 16017, 2017 through 2021 Capital Improvement Program. My one time to whack the gavel tonight. Floor is open for a motion on the case or any further discussion. And I believe, Mr. Zur, please keep me straight on this, but I believe a motion would be something of the form, Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend approval of case 16017 and forward to City Council with recommendation of approval, or
That is correct, Chairman.
something to that effect.
So moved.
Oh, darn. Thank you. Commissioner Anderson, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, who got it first? Commissioner Berenson?
Yeah.
Or Bowie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sorry, I saw a motion, but, all right, so motion on the floor by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Bowie to recommend recommend approval of case 16017, 2017 to 2021 Capital Improvement Program, and forward to City Council. Any further discussion on the case? All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's 8 in favor. None opposed, no abstentions. Thank you, Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And city staff in general. And let's see, Mr. Zur, you've been rather quiet this evening. I think it's time for City Council report, if you would.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to provide that. It's a pleasure to be bound before the commission again. As always, I would invite the mayor to identify any additional information that he can recall from the staff report, from the city council report, as he was also present. And this evening, we also have Mr. Fearborn here who can supplement as necessary. I will report to you this evening from the city council meeting that occurred on Monday, August 22nd, 2016, which is the last meeting that we've had, or the only other meeting we've had since our last Planning and Zoning Commission. Real quickly, I would note that we completed the second reading of the August 2nd, 2016 declaration for the election results. results. So all the election results from the August 6th election have been completed and declared by the council. We also had the opportunity to set the 2016 tax levies. Council voted at that time, and the excellent fiscal management has resulted in no change with regard to the tax levy from 2015 to 2016, remaining at 1.3057 overall. The other items I'd point out for you are under the new business, including first readings. First new reading we had was the permanent closure and removal of the access drive at 1918 West Foxwood Drive. That was the Ryan's access location that you all had the opportunity to see both on June 21st, 2016, as well as August 16th, 2016. The City Council voted unanimously to proceed with that closure, and it will be up for a second reading here at the next council meeting. Next item I've got for interest with you would be the appointment of a Charter Review Commission. Council has approved a Charter Review Commission, including the members of the same, which will be meeting this week for the first time in order to go over the first review of the charter in the last 10 years. That is all I have as far as the City Council report. And again, I'd obviously invite the mayor to chime in with any additional information that he can have from his recollection of the meetings, or as well as Mr. Fearborn.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Zerk. Anything to add? No?
Great job.
Thank you. All right. Well, Mr. Carteret, that'll take us on to staff report and planning pipeline.
Thank you, sir. Two items. Talk about our upcoming schedule first. We will have a meeting on September 20th here in 2 weeks. We have a public hearing scheduled for consideration of a conditional use permit for the Recreational Activity Center. So as you recall, when we had the municipal center proposal behind us, any new public building in the city does require a conditional use permit. Ms. Hawk will be here to make that presentation give you more details on that request. We obviously have also notified surrounding property owners, Shadowwood subdivision would look down upon the property, as well as some other adjacent neighbors were notified to appear at the meeting and share their thoughts. October 4th, we initially had 2 items scheduled. It looks as if both of those will be deferred. I don't know that we'll have any items for October 4th, but we'll leave that open until the 20th meeting. The site plan for Panda Express is going to be on your November 1st agenda, and then the site plan for the Recreation Park Activity Center may be put on the October 18th agenda. We do believe we'll have a meeting on October 18th, but let's leave the October 4th meeting open for now. The only other item that I am very happy to talk about is we have hired a code enforcement officer. So my schedule will be greatly freed up, and I can begin working again on some of the items that we've talked about, but just haven't made it back to the commission. The sign code being first and foremost, as well as our UDC amendments that we talked about at our annual meeting when we considered the annual review and report for the UDC. So those are 2 big items that we'll be working on here in the next couple of months. So I don't know when that will come back before you, but of course it will be done as a public hearing at that time. So we're excited to have that staff member replacement, and it just frees up staff to do other planning activities. So he will start on Monday, so I'm very excited about that. Other than that, I think that would conclude my report for this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carteret. I'll open the floor briefly for public comment, and seeing no one from the public, let's move on to commission member comment. It's been a while. I can't remember who I started with last time. Commissioner Anderson, please.
I want to, commend Mr. Fearborn and city staff for the review, for the CIP. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work, and I know it's a juggling act regarding that. So I appreciate all the hard work. Mr. Kress as well. I know you went out on program, so I appreciate you for the insight as well. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I'm going to just work on down this right side. Commissioner Berenson.
I'll echo the same comments Commissioner Anderson had. Thank you. I want to point out that it's also obvious that you guys took to heart a lot of what happened during the community conversation event we had. So it kind of reinforces that that was time well spent, so thank you for that. And then real quickly, I think it's great that we're keeping the post office at Hannah Park, so I thought that was good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meiske.
Ditto.
Okay, well, that's better than a no comment. Commissioner Bowie.
Not much of a comment, just that I was just looking through the report, seeing how many homes are currently under construction. Really booming in terms of the last, compared to 2014, so looks good. And other than that, nothing but Jim with no tie. Almost didn't recognize you. I knew something was wrong. You said you hired a new person and relieved some of your duties, and you celebrated by not wearing a tie tonight, right? Yeah. All right, nothing else. That's it.
Yep, thank you. Vice Chair Pfizer.
Well, I don't even know how to follow that, so I'm just going to say no comment.
Oh, fine. Secretary Crane.
As I said last year, being a bean counter, I always appreciate financial presentations, and I want you to know that I fought back the impulse to check your math.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure somebody did. Oh, I'm sorry, got me tickled now. Mr. Mayor.
Just a couple of things. Again, this is my second presentation on the CIP. Our first was at a work session, and there it's difficult to give kudos to the staff when we're busily asking a lot of questions of them. But it really is an exciting time for me to be mayor because we've got so much going on. We're fiscally sound. It is really we've got a wonderful staff. Just kudos to everybody on the staff. A lot of hard work went into putting the CIP program together. A lot of thoughtfulness, as was mentioned by Mr. Berenson. The Reimagine Raymore talks were thoughtfully brought into this to the thought process here, and I really do I want to commend them for a great program and what's about to come with the approval of the next year's budget. Also, I'm anxious to see what Lee Summit has to say. I was invited to the mayor's State of the City address this Thursday night, so I'll report back to you about all the good things our neighboring community is going to be doing and see if we can match any of that. You think we can?
They're a little larger, aren't they?
A little bit, maybe not much, but a little bit. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mayor Turnbow. First, I want to thank Mr. Fearborn for what was a very effective, I'm actually glad you didn't read everything verbatim, but I thought your presentation hit a happy medium between being very informative without being the least bit boring. There's a lot of money on the line. Those of us who have lived in Raymore for a few decades certainly can see a lot of changes. Those who are newer to Raymore certainly can see a lot of changes and probably still have a pretty long list of wouldn't it be nice if, wouldn't it be nice if. And so I know that it takes a lot of work from the whole team, city staff, to come up with a reasonable balance there between what we can do and what we should do. And I appreciate that. Mr. Crass, Mr. Eanes, Mr. Catterett, Mr. Azur, thank you all. We could not do this without your excellent support. And it's nice to know, Jim, that you now have a little more time to work on those minutes. I'm sure that's out of the frying pan into the fire. I don't have anything else to add, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Got a motion? Who's second? I'll second. Okay, motion by Mayor Turnbow, second by Commissioner Meiske to adjourn. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. Only one, and I hope I count 8. Thank you very much. 8 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions.
John, did you understand